How can you create a brand that stands out even in the most crowded markets? Well, Kristy Campbell has mastered this art, and she's here to share her secrets with us today. Kristy is the founder of Pink Pony Creative, a branding agency that has helped countless businesses create unforgettable visual identities. But what sets Kristy apart is how she's built her brand from scratch, starting with a 100-day design challenge that turned her passion project into a thriving business, all while gathering thousands of followers on Instagram and TikTok. Her success even led to a partnership with Adobe, where she's been a featured speaker at Adobe MAX, sharing her expertise with designers around the world. Today, Kristy will reveal her step-by-step approach to building a bold, cohesive brand and how you can make your business visually unforgettable.
As simple as what are the goals, you're building out your product or your service, thinking about why you are different from another business, and even building out things and understanding the market. Again, it's very surprising how many people don't know their market.
So if you're a creator or entrepreneur looking to design a standout brand from the ground up, you won't want to miss this. Welcome to The Creator's Adventure, where we interview creators from around the world hearing their stories about growing a business. Hey everyone, I'm Brian McAnulty, the founder of Heights Platform. Let's get into it. Hey Kristy, welcome back to the show.
Hello, Brian. It's good to be here again. I'm excited to chat after maybe 2 years since we last spoke.
Yeah, about 2 years. So my first question for you is something that we've started asking everybody on this show now, and that is, what would you say is the biggest thing either that you did or you are doing that has helped you to achieve the freedom to do what you enjoy?
Ooh, the biggest thing. I think it comes down to social media, because I think about all the opportunities I've had and how my business has grown in the past couple of years, and it's purely down to social media for sure. So that is definitely the biggest thing that has allowed me to achieve my dreams, and hopefully will continue. It's a massive. When I talk about social media, it's not just one platform too, it's multiple. And even with what I've been doing recently, I've just started posting on LinkedIn as someone who never did previously. It was always Instagram and TikTok. And that has elevated the business even more recently. So, just jumping on all these platforms has allowed me to grow even more. So I'm a big believer in getting on social media and putting yourself out there to allow yourself to get more opportunities.
Yeah, and for those watching and listening, definitely go check out our earlier episode with Kristy a couple years back, because she really goes into all of that, how what you did with social media really kickstarted everything for you. So that's a great answer, I think, in this case, definitely.
Oh, cool.
So congratulations on your exciting baby news.
Thank you.
Have you thought about maybe how becoming a parent may influence running Pink Pony Creative or your brand's direction? Any thoughts or plans on that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's such a wild thought. So I'm currently, at this time of recording this, I'm 5 months pregnant. And, as someone who had a business 4 years ago when I started it, I was just freelancing. And then I grew the team kind of naturally. It was never a plan, but it just kind of happened because I started to get busy, the team grew. And I feel like right now I'm so thankful that I've grown the team, because if I was just freelancing, my whole journey of becoming a mother would look very different, I think. And now I've grown a lot of trust and built the trust in my team. They do an awesome job. So I feel really confident, to be honest, to be able to take a step back and enjoy motherhood. Obviously, I'll never completely be out of the business, because it's I love it. I live and breathe it, and it would be really hard for me to fully take a step back and just ignore it. But I know that I'll be able to take even a couple of months off without being too much into it. So it'll change for sure. Things will change, and I think my biggest worry with it is the marketing and sales side of it, because technically that's kind of my job at the moment, creating these videos so that we can get all the work coming in. That's obviously a big worry, is that maybe that would slow down a bit, but essentially those are things that I can actually do now, create a backlog of content so that I can just post it all when I'm having this break, and then get back into the swing of it slowly and a little bit easier. But I'm so lucky with the team I have. They're awesome designers. I've got a project manager on board now who's helping immensely as well. So I've slowly developed this team to be able to support my journey of becoming a mother. So it honestly doesn't feel so scary anymore. Like, asked me a year ago, I would have been like, this would have been like so hard. I don't know how it was going to work, but yeah, I feel really happy and confident in where I am right now with the business, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think for me, I have a daughter. She's 2.5 or so, and it was kind of similar. I felt really fortunate that I did have a team in place that allowed me to step away from it a little bit and not feel like, what is going to happen? Like, if I want to step back, or can I even just for a little bit here? I would say the one thing that maybe is obvious, but and you probably maybe are already like this, having a team, like things have to be kind of scheduled, but having a newborn or a child, like making everything a strict schedule just helps so much. And when I started as an entrepreneur, at least, it was like, I get to do things whenever. And it was like no schedule, like I'll work when I feel like I'm going to work, and contact clients when I feel like I'm going to do that. But now, like, having a very specific schedule, like these are the time periods when things happen, has made things very, very smooth. And I don't remember the time of like not being scheduled now.
Exactly. It is quite, we're so lucky with what we do, because if essentially all we need is a laptop and an internet connection. So I do feel blessed that we have an office space now that the team work from, but I only live 5 minutes away from the office, and just I'll be able to go on my laptop if I need to, even in the middle of the night, and I'll just answer one tricky email maybe that we're having problems with, So we're so lucky with what we do. We don't have to be anywhere to do the work. Yep. Really. So I think that'll help the journey into motherhood a lot easier. Yeah,
and it's really incredible, and to get to be a new parent and get to be there and like spend all the time with your child, because you don't have to like go right back into the office after a month or two.
Yes.
So, and like always be in the office. So definitely that's exciting. And everyone says like it's an incredible experience to have a child, and like I heard that before I did, and like I thought like, okay, this is going to be great, but then after it happened, it was definitely more than I even imagined. So
that's so lovely. I love that.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it very much. My next thing to get into here is about branding. So what do you say is the first steps that a new business should take when they're trying to kind of build a brand identity from scratch?
I think one of the biggest things is you have to actually build a bit of a base for your business. A lot of people come to us as one of the first point of contacts, which is awesome. I'm glad that they have that knowledge that branding is so important, but you do have to do a bit of back work and like have your product somewhat ready to go, or an understanding of it. It's really surprising how many people will say, I want to start a makeup brand, come to us with no other information. That's just an idea, but they're willing to invest all this money, which is, again, like I said, great. But you've got to build a bit of a core framework for the business before you start to bring on things like and understand branding and like how we're going to build that. I mean, as simple as like, what are the goals? Like, you're building out your product or your service, thinking about why you are different from another business. Those types of things can really help just build that foundation, because when it comes to building a brand and a visual identity, if we're working with clients, we're going to ask them questions like, how are you different from other businesses? Why would someone come to you over another company? And even building out things like understanding the market. Again, it's very surprising how many people don't know their market. So we'll ask people, who are your competitors? And they'll say, oh, no, no one. This is a new business. I've never seen this been done before. And I feel like to that you could say, well, sure, but if you aren't there, who would they go to for the service that you offer? And then there'll always be an answer. Someone's done something similar before. A lot of these things are, just kind of an evolution of the next. So building out that framework is definitely something that you've got to do, because we're going to go ahead and ask those questions. The next thing to think about as well is, you want to target an audience, and this is something your brand designer can work through with you. You want to target your key audience, but you also want to understand how the personality that you want to portray for this brand, because it's almost a combination of the two, your target audience, the personality you want to portray, bringing those together. Because if we were all trying to target the same audience, we all want to look and feel the same. And so essentially when you bring a new brand to an industry, how do you differentiate yourself? And the personality that you bring and the tone that you bring can be something that is quite different. So I mean, like, those would be the basic building blocks of building the brand from scratch, and how to do that. But yeah, if you want me to go into any other details, let me know.
No, yeah, that's really helpful already, because I see the same thing happen, and I ran like a small design studio before turning into a software company. And yeah, so many times I see people like wanting to obsess over logos and everything before they're really ready. And number one, like, if you don't have those things figured out that you talked about, it's going to be more expensive to try to spend all this time working with a branding studio to just figure those things out that you can do on yourself. And number two, it's going to distract from getting those first couple customers. It's not necessary to get those first couple customers. And once you do, and once you get all that nailed down, now you're ready to really create a brand around it. But then the second point,
sorry,
yeah, go on.
I cut you, and I was going to say something else that comes to my mind with this, and this is speaking from someone who uses social media as like the biggest driver for a business, but most businesses these days would be similar, is I think often there's a lot of people who want it to be perfect. They want it to be like 100% perfect before they release it to the world. And half the time, honestly, these days, I would say to them, like, I think you should start documenting your journey and building your brand on social media, whatever that looks like. Don't be afraid of it not being perfect. It can be imperfect. It's got to be imperfect. Start putting out these videos about this process of building the business, because you'll start to gain some traction, even if it's not much, but you'll build a small audience, and the audience will come on this journey with you. I mean, again, like, it can really depend on the business. So I'm not saying this would work for everyone.
No, well, for probably the majority of our audience, I would completely agree that's the way to do it. And like, you can't be perfect. So if you sit there trying to wait to be perfect, you're never going to get the practice or like the experience to even be perfect. And so whatever you, like, I always say, like, whatever you launch now, if it's a product, if it's a video, a post, whatever you're creating, a couple of years from now, you're probably going to look back at that and say, like, wow, I could do so much better now. But like, so however much time you try to make it perfect, it's better to get it out there and do that. And my second point was going to be what you're talking about of like your personality and everything. I too often think that I see people want to like look at their competitors or look at what's out there and say, oh, I'm going to try to copy this or mimic this. But especially in like the industry of like course creators and communities and coaching, a lot of times people are purchasing from you and they're following you because of your unique personality and message. And so when you think of like the personalities that you follow on social media, like not necessarily a celebrity, but probably everyone listening or watching can think of like some account that they've seen or that they follow, and like, oh, I like that guy or I like that woman, that like they've got this funny or interesting way that they always talk about everything, and like they're really themselves about that. Like that's what people want to see. They don't want to see you be like everybody else, because then they're not going to follow you. They're not going to buy from you.
Totally. Yeah. When you build a brand, you have to have a point of difference to be able to stand out amongst the like sea of sameness, I guess, out there. I mean, the brand that comes to mind with this is Liquid Death, the water company.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the prime example of how they completely broke an industry like norm, I guess, in the way that they branded the name. Even it doesn't look like a water brand, it looks like an alcohol, but they came in with this real black kind of aggressive looking can, and it's worked out so well for them because they're so different. Obviously it's a big risk with things like that, and you have to kind of evaluate the risks, but they did the perfect job of, I want to actually flip everything on its head and do everything that everyone is not doing. And that's their point of difference of how they came in so different. But your point of difference doesn't necessarily have to be in the way it looks as well. It could be in the way that you communicate with your clients. It could be your sales techniques. It could be your marketing. It could be, there's so many different things it could be, but you have to work out some kind of point of difference and not be completely, the same as others. Another company that comes to mind that did a really good job of, not starting perfectly, she didn't just launch her brand, is a company called Bang & Bod, and they're an Australian skincare brand. But she actually, the founder, started an Instagram. She knew she wanted to bring out the skincare line. She started an Instagram page before launching the skincare line about building a beautiful community around, like, I think, natural beauty and women. And it was just an inspirational Instagram account. But she just posted consistently, built up an audience with this, and then released a product to this audience. That was her goal all along, and that's the perfect example of like starting to build this community, and then when you release something, they're like, oh, I've loved this community, I want to be a part of this, and then they'll purchase your product, and that's such an amazing way of starting. But yeah, she didn't think about being perfect, she didn't want to be perfect, didn't need a brand even before she started that. So that was an awesome way of doing it.
I think what's neat is we're coming to this point of like the general community of entrepreneurs starting to better understand this now. That it used to be like, okay, there's these creators, like content creators, and then there's these creators like building products. And the content creators would create all this content, and that was like, oh, I'm going to make money maybe from a sponsorship, maybe from the platform, and like that was it. And then the people building the products were like, oh, I'm going to make money from my product. I guess I'm going to try to figure out some way to make a social media account after to maybe promote it. But they were both missing like a big chunk there, where now the content creators realized, wow, if I sell my own product, I can make so much more. I can make more money. I can make more impact. And then the creators building these products realized, oh, I can be talking about this and I don't have to make this one viral post. I can be talking about myself and building this up along the way. And then I have somebody to show my product to.
Yeah, and that's where like personal branding comes into play. That is essentially personal branding, and having an audience around who you are. And then like, even influencers, we see so many influencers bring out products and clothing or whatever they might be, a new business. But I'm like, everyone kind of complains about it, like, just another influencer business. But they're incredibly smart because they're just monetizing their community. And I think, I just actually spoke about personal branding at Adobe MAX recently, so I'm a big passionate person when it comes to personal branding. But if you can combine your business brand with a personal brand, people will be tied to you because you are a person as well, and people sell to people. So if you can have the ability to then push that audience across into your business and your product, your service, whatever it might be, people are more likely to jump on board because they like you because of who you are.
Yeah, definitely. So other than that, for somebody like going out there trying to create a brand on their own, what are some other common mistakes?
Oh, some common mistakes. I think, there's so many. I think I learned this actually from a guy called Dane Walker. He's an Australian. And this comes down to the visuals for the brand and when you're thinking about the visuals. And imagine a graph. So we've got, this will be on video too, won't it? Otherwise it'll be difficult to visualize. But imagine a graph, and we've got, say, a skydiving business. Someone comes to us wanting to be having a new brand for a skydiving company. And they say, I want to be like everyone else and I want to make it red and black. And then you sort of say to them, yeah, but hang on, let's just look at this. So on this graph, if you print out all your competitors and like visualize those competitors, you'd probably be surprised most of the companies sit within this black and red like look and feel for a skydiving business, because that's just what everyone seems to do. And if you say to them, if you want to be different visually, we need to be on the other side of that and completely kind of flip it on its head to stand out amongst the red and the black and the more aggressive looking skydiving companies. So I guess, that's a big tip, is just stop thinking, I want it to be my own personal preference, say the red and the black. Look at the overall market. How can we differentiate ourselves to be completely different and not go with the red and the black branding? So that would be a big one. Don't be too invested personally in what you like, because that can obviously sway the look of the brand. And that's your own personal opinion as well. I mean, in some cases it does work for like personal brands. It can, because essentially it's just you. So you need to do whatever you like. So that's definitely a good tip when it comes to branding. Another one, obviously, I mean, the biggest one we all talk about is consistency. So, I mean, that's a really easy one to apply, but people don't necessarily really understand the importance of that. On top of consistency, I would actually say if you can bring your brand to life in whatever shape and form that is, so not just what people see on screen and on paper. I'm going to use myself as an example. I mean, I'm sitting here in front of my office wall and I painted my whole office pink. I've got a giant pink plastic horse in my office, and all of these things has allowed me to bring the brand into the physical world, which has actually allowed it to become more prominent in people's minds. It's carving that space in people's minds. So now I get sent giant plastic horses because people associate plastic horses with Pink Pony because of my, giant plastic horse in my office. So if you can bring your brand to life, actually a really good example of this is Duolingo, the education brand for language. If you look at their Instagram, they've got that big mascot who essentially I'm sure when they started their business, they never thought that would be a successful strategy for branding, bringing their mascot literally to life into a physical form. But it's done incredibly well on social media and has allowed them to grow. And it's brought this like cheekiness to the brand and this playfulness and the tongue of, what's that saying? Tongue in cheek. I was like, my brain. Bringing it to life if you can. Another really easy way to do that is wear your brand. I actually just yesterday I was walking down the street and I saw a client, and I probably actually wouldn't have recognized him, but he was wearing a shirt with his logo that we designed for him, just right in front, centered shirt. And he was wearing it down the street. And it was I was like, there he is. I saw him, and everyone else would see that brand too, because you're literally bringing it into the physical world. So that's a really easy one to do. Don't be afraid to, harness your brand with all your life and soul, because that does also help with consistency. So that's a really nice, easy tip as well. I'm trying to think of some other ones, some really good tips. I think when it comes to branding as well, for things like packaging too, obviously if you're a product-based business, again, you really want to think about how you're going to step outside that comfort zone and that norm. So look at your competitors. Literally go into a supermarket if that's where you're going to have your product. View the shelf that you're going to be on and try and understand the competitors around that. And really look at how can we actually be so different. Most of the time, if you go into certain aisles of the supermarket, those products will start to look very same, like the Liquid Death. How do we then stand out against everything?
Yeah, and the packaging, it applies to literal packaging, but also in the digital world as well. And my team, we were talking today about the experience of somebody just coming across our brand for the first time. What are they going to think? How are they going to perceive it if they see us from this platform versus something else? And it's really interesting. In the same way that if you have a physical product, you can actually go there, look at the shelf of where it's going to be and how it's going to be positioned. But for digital products, for even your social media profile, imagine that you're, instead of going into the store, you're going in to look at this person's page for the first time and you know nothing about them. What are you going to think that they do? What are you going to think is the next step for you to then interact with them? There's so much you can do with understanding that and how you're kind of guiding the prospect, the audience through your brand experience.
Exactly, and this actually ties in a bit with packaging, but overall this is branding too, is you have to understand that branding isn't about selling your product or your service, essentially. It's selling the feeling that you're going to get when you are using that product or service. Apple is the epitome of an amazing, successful brand, but they do an awesome job, obviously, at selling a feeling. They're selling that high quality, I want to be part of this world where if I don't have an iPhone, I'm not fitting into society, basically. So you're wanting to try and sell a feeling or an emotion rather than just that product or service. Red Bull is another one. You know, they're not selling their drink, they're selling that daring, I'm going to be a daredevil person to their audience. And whoever, if you want to be part of that, like I want to be a daredevil, so I'm going to drink Red Bull, they're selling that whole feeling. So that's a really important one. And I think a lot of people, obviously, who just come into building a business and a brand don't understand, because obviously, you know, it's probably not their niche, it's not what they've learned, so that's totally understandable. So if you can really try and understand what is this product or service doing for this person, you know, how is it changing their life, and then you start to develop your marketing strategy, even your branding, your packaging around that, and trying to sell that feeling or that emotion, you'll just be so much more ahead of others for sure.
Yeah. So I'm curious now about AI. I think is a polarizing topic in some ways among creatives. What are your thoughts on AI, both like in branding and design, like in general?
I love this because people are so torn. It's such a hot topic. I've talked about this on social media, and I had literally had someone say to me, I'm disappointed in you that you feel this way. I was like, oh, that's harsh. But I am very much on board with AI. I sort of maybe like a year ago read the Diary of a CEO book, Stephen Bartlett, and at the start of the book, near the start, he talks about leaning into bizarre behaviour. And when Stephen Bartlett, started his social media agency many years ago, when social media was very new, everyone kind of was like, oh, you know, this is not going to work for you. It's so unusual. But he leant into social media really early and then actually was ahead of everyone else. I think AI is essentially exactly the same thing. So if you can lean into this bizarre behavior of AI, you'll be one step further and one step ahead of everybody else. I do think there's AI out there that is not doing it correctly. They're taking, you know, work that they see online and kind of merging it together, which essentially is stealing someone's, you know, art, stealing their time, stealing their money. But companies like Adobe, with Adobe Firefly, the image generating platform, they only use stock images from Adobe stock to create these images. So essentially for a company like that, they're doing it right because they're not utilizing anyone from all around the world's art. But, you know, what it's doing is just speeding up our creative processes and allowing for more room and creativity when it comes to our design work. We use it daily, for sure. We use it for image generating, for creating brands that don't necessarily have brand photography. When they start their businesses, we use it to like showcase the potential, the inspiration. You know, this is what your brand could look like. And even in software like Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, you're using AI almost every day now just to help speed up processes. Like I said, there's definitely things that probably aren't as powerful as others, but all it's doing is aiding our creative process and our time that we take to do things. I don't think at this point in time it's not taking away jobs essentially, it's just helping speed things up. But I'm not going to lie, like, you don't know what this will look like in 10 years. I don't know if it's going to be something that will take people's jobs, but I do think it's something that we should jump on board with and understand and learn, because that's the only direction we're going in. The world's not going to stop using AI just because maybe in the future jobs are going to be taken away from us. It's a big topic.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think a lot of maybe like the designer, like somebody in like your position might be somebody who would be actually worried about it. But I look at it the same way, that it's just a tool to allow us to create even easier. And so like, yes, it's very different than like, if I'm going to just ask AI to generate something for me, that's very different than me like learning how to draw it myself with an actual pencil or something. But like if you learned how to draw something yourself with like a pencil, like, did you make that pencil? No, you know, like that, yeah, that's exactly the tool that you were using. So it's different. Like, yes, it's not, there's a different skill involved, and like the person who can like draw that artwork with a pencil or paint it, like that's incredible. But it's just facilitating this creating of things even more. And so I don't think like a business, like going and hiring a designer branding agency, they're not going to go and like, oh wow, you made that for me so easy. now, like, we're done. Like, no, they just want to create more, right? So I think as creatives, what's going to be exciting is like, now we can just like do everything. It went from like, maybe like you're a branding agency, but maybe in the future, like, who knows, you'll be saying like, oh, we can make you guys like a movie. Like, do you want to make a movie? We'll make it next week. And like, it's going to be really exciting, I think, for basically you being able to be this creative person and have this vision, and then say like, okay, now I'm going to put this out into the world, not only as like the thing that I learned, which was like design, but like in all these different mediums. And you don't have to hire like thousands of people to be able to do that. You can almost do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when it comes to AI, it's just that support system and that boost. I remember someone, I was part of like a Photoshop launch where they were bringing out some new tools and stuff last year. And on the call, they spoke about AI, and because there was so many questions about it even last year, middle of last year, and someone from the Photoshop team said, I was here for the launch of Photoshop like many years ago, early 2000s, end, 90s, whenever it was, and when they launched Photoshop, everyone was like, this is horrific, like, how are we ever going to know what's a real photo? We don't want to be a part of this. And if you look at where they were then and then now, Photoshop, we wouldn't be able to do our jobs without Photoshop. It's only become like a essential part of our development and our creativity. AI will be the same, I have no doubt. I really do think so. So I think you stop being scared of it, because I think you will get left behind. You won't understand it. And again, like, people say, oh, this just means that the client will be able to do all the hard work. But you still have to have a creative brain to be able to create, and as simple as image generating, you've got to understand how to prompt and actually have that creative brain to think of these prompts and these solutions to create such image. So you still have to be a creative. Something that I could create, if I said to my mum, can you create the same thing, she'd probably struggle. It's not going to be the same.
Yeah, and I mean, it goes back to exactly what you talked about before with like the consistency and everything. So if you tell AI, okay, make me this awesome brand, and it's for like a makeup brand, like, go create it, and it makes something, what happens next week when you need something else done? And like, what happens now? You need to send an email or something, and nothing then really like connects together, right? And even if you say, okay, well, I got an idea, I'm going to just tell the AI, hey, this is what this AI made before, it's still like, you have to be able to see like, well, why am I doing something the way that I'm doing it in order to like really direct it?
Yeah, definitely. I have come to learn, though, don't talk about it too much online, because people have a lot to say about it. Like I said earlier, they get really defensive about it. And I do understand, because it's change and people don't like change and it's scary. It's the unknown. So I do understand. But I think, you will, all for it. Get on, start to use it, understand. And it's fun. It is really fun. So that can just be part of the whole journey too.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the show, I like to have every guest ask a question to our audience. So last time, I think you asked about like, what's stopping you from sharing your work on social media. I'm curious this time if you could ask anything to our audience, kind of get them thinking. What would that be?
Oh, what about something about? I'm going to phrase this question as I talk about it, around perfection. Like, why are you looking for perfection? Because essentially, when you think about what you like, do you look for perfection in everything? Are you happy when someone is 100% a perfect human? They've got nothing that exciting, to say. Like, stop looking for perfection, I think. So ask yourself, why am I looking for perfection before releasing something? When was the last time you watched a video on social media or saw a brand that you're like, oh my God, this is literally perfect. I'm so glad that they released this. You don't really look at things like that. So that would be my question. Why are you looking for perfection?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And I think it's great for like creative people and even those who consider themselves less creative to think about that. I think like the idea of imperfection is actually a really beautiful concept in a way that like imperfection is a good thing, actually. But it's very difficult to feel comfortable, especially like when you're working on something, like, is it ready to be put out there in the world? So
yes, what do they say? They say like it's better to be 80% there than not at all. Something like that. I actually don't really know the quote, but something around that.
Yeah, exactly. If you're creating something that you believe is going to somehow serve or benefit people, but you can never get it out to them, then it's not going to be able to do its job.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
yeah. All right. Well, Kristy, it was great talking with you again. Before we get going, where else can people find you online?
Kristy the Pink Pony on Instagram, and then I'm on TikTok, Pink Pony Creative, LinkedIn, Kristy Campbell, and just our agency website as well, pinkponycreative.com. Definitely. If you have any questions about anything I've spoken about, let me know on the DMs.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
I'd like to take a moment to invite you to join our free community of over 5,000 creators at creatorclimb.com. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, check out the Heights Platform YouTube channel every Tuesday at 9 a.m. US Central. To get notified when new episodes release, join our newsletter at thecreatorsadventure.com. Until then, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next episode.